Okay, this is a very interesting newspaper article I came across in an old scrapbook. Reading these articles, there's two of them from two different papers. I'm not exactly sure what two newspapers they're from, probably the Windsor Star and maybe the Detroit Free Press. I'm going to read it here. Fake Society Scion jailed as swanky swindler. How's that for a headline? Youth gets everything but key to Detroit on borrowed nickel and Playboy pose. Same photo, his mugshot. Ontario youth arrested on charge of passing worthless checks. This must be the American paper. Donald R. Lowry, 19, of Walkerville, Ontario. Synthetic man about town and self-appointed scion of Detroit rich. Today had renounced the swanky set by correction of the police department and returned to his home pending trial next week on a charge of uttering and publishing. Lowry came to Detroit last week and, according to police, began presenting himself to local merchants as the son of such wealthy citizens as Franklin Walker, Theodore H. Buell, Frederick M. Alger, and F.C. Ford. Using such family names on rubber checks, Lowry succeeded in obtaining the use of a high-powered automobile and in buying an elaborate wardrobe, police say. He's positively the nerviest guy in the world, said Detroit Detective Frank Purell, who arrested Lowry. I wouldn't be surprised if he's suffering from gallstones. Lowry was graduated from the Walkerville High School at the June commencement, and immediately after this exercise, he left his home at 146 Lincoln Road, Walkerville, and came to Detroit, police say. He got a hold of a guest card, good only for July 4th at the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club, Detective Purell explained. Then, representing himself as the son of Phelps Newberry, he got himself a big car. From the office of the company, he phoned a florist asking them to send $12 worth of roses to the Newberry home with a card inscribed, "Thanks, Dad, for the car, Phelps Jr." Next, he appointed himself the scion of other prominent Detroit families, including the Walkers, Buells, Algers, and Fords, and began acquiring a beautiful wardrobe. I caught him Saturday at a smart haberdashery, where posing as his own chauffeur, he called for a $77 suit. Lowry stood mute when arraigned before Judge Edward J. Jeffries today. He was remanded to the county jail on a $2,000 bond. After returning to his jail cell, Lowry later gained his freedom when attorney Francis Moriarty succeeded in obtaining his bail. The youth was returned to Walkerville with his father, who told Moriarty, "He has delusions of grandeur, I guess. He must have got it from running around with wealthier boys in high school. I'm a poor man, but I'll try to raise the money to cover the checks he issued." Wow. I wonder whatever happened to him. What a story. And unfortunately, there was no date on any of this. The headlines had been clipped. But flipping over to the back, I can read some other newspaper headlines. 5 hobos die in a wreck. Highland Park Board to seek new post office. Okay, this is the one that helped me figure out the exact date. Vatican City, July 9th. This one's a mouthful. Father Giuseppe Gianfranceschi, 59 years old, one of the Vatican's outstanding scientific figures, died today. He was widely known in connection with his work as the director of the Vatican's modern radio station, which Pope Pius inaugurated in February of 1931. Okay, so we know this is after 1931. And then looking up Father Giuseppe Gianfranceschi, and we can see the exact day that he died. It was July 9th, 1934. So this was a little over 90 years ago that this guy pulled this off. 90 years. Wow. I wanted to see if I could find out any more information about Donald R. Lowry. Did he turn his life around? I knew where he lived from the newspaper article, 146 Lincoln Road in Walkerville. I started by searching the City of Windsor directory from 1934 for the Lowry name and found this, confirming that Donald Lowry, the student, lived at that address. Did he live by himself? Next, I checked the 1935 City of Windsor directory and saw that there was no longer a Donald Lowry living on Lincoln, or anywhere else in Windsor for that matter. It was a dead end. The trail was cold as of 90 years ago. I wasn't going to give up that easy, though. I knew that Lowry graduated from Walkerville High School in 1934, so I searched online to see if there were any Walkerville High School yearbooks from that year. Sadly, there were not, but there was one from the previous year, 1933. Scanning through the online version of the yearbook, sadly, I was not able to find Lowry's yearbook photo. However, I found Donald Lowry in not one but 2 school clubs, debating and orating team. Not surprisingly, he was a good talker. And the hockey team. That was a surprise. Doing some more Google sleuthing, I hit upon the name again. in a newspaper article from 1937. This is wild. The headline, back in Burwash, Sudbury, December 1. Donald Lowry of Windsor and Gordon MacArthur of Toronto were brought back yesterday to Burwash Industrial Farm, where they escaped November 18th. They were picked up several days later in Toronto. Walter Ware Hamilton, who fled with them, is still at large. Lowry, picked up the day before, also pleaded guilty to escaping and was given an additional month. Lowry had been sentenced to a prison farm called Burwash in northern Ontario. Here's a little bit of information I found on Burwash Correctional Center. It was opened in 1914. Over the years, an entire community sprang up around it. The prison was deemed too costly and was shuttered in 1975, leaving the red brick building to the elements. It says that Burwash only housed low-risk inmates serving sentences of up to 2 years. So it sounds like Lowry had been sentenced to under 2 years in the correctional facility and escaped just before he was to be released. His sentence for trying to escape was 1 additional month. The trail went cold after that. I'll circle back to why. Why did a seemingly normal high school student, a recent graduate who was the member of the debate team and the hockey team, leave Walkerville and run amok in Detroit? Then get caught and get sent to prison and try to escape shortly before he was to be released. Maybe it had something to do with this. In the newspaper article, it says that Lowry had arranged to hold a banquet at the yacht club for a girl. Lowry was asked if the girl that he was planning to throw the party for was a society girl. His response was, "Yes, I imagine you could call her that." Refuses to reveal the name of fiancé he planned to give dinner party. Now, this is mere speculation, but perhaps Lowry did all of the scheming and scamming in Detroit to try to impress a wealthy former classmate crush from Walkerville High School. Perhaps even the same individual who took the time to clip these 2 separate newspaper articles out of 2 separate newspapers and put them into a scrapbook almost 100 years ago. Whatever the reason, he got caught. And at the time of this recording, I'm not sure if young Donald ever got his life back on track. And there is currently no evidence that he ever came back to Walkerville or Windsor. Thank you for watching the video, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Michael Evans, Windsor, Ontario. Do you have any additional information on Donald Lowry? Did he serve in World War II? I'm wondering if he did because he was around that age. Would they let you in World War II if you had a criminal record? I'm going to have to try to find that out.